Welcome back, everyone. Spring and summer is a time for new growth and taking bold action together. So we hope these stories will inspire you to live boldly, take wise chances, and with our friends and family make a difference together. Today we're going to be reading The American Story, 100 True Tales from American History by Jennifer Armstrong and illustrated by Roger Roth. So lean in with the spirit of adventure, grab a friend, and let's enjoy the story together. 1919, the Great Molasses Flood. Criminy! It looks like the temperance ladies were getting their way at last. Any day now, Congress is going to say yes and sign the papers to make selling spirits illegal, to selling alcohol illegal. A crime to sell a working man a mug of beer. A crime to shake a beaker of cocktails at the Blue Lady Lounge. What was this country coming to? Prohibition? The distillery bosses were biting their fingernails. If prohibition actually passed, well, they'd have to find another line of work, wouldn't they? Over in the north end of Boston, the United States Alcohol Company couldn't decide what to do with their great tank of molasses. Should they go ahead and distill it into rum that they wouldn't be able to sell, or sell it at a loss as a sweetener for baked beans and gingerbread? It is a sad truth that few people can think with a clear head when alcohol is involved. So 2 million gallons of molasses sat week after week. So do nothing is the answer. Don't make any amount of money. Just let it sit there. All right. They probably thought that people were going to come to their senses and, it would go back to normal. But 2 million gallons of molasses sat week after week in the enormous cast iron tank at the end of Commercial Street, starting to ferment. Gas is building up inside, straining the seams and rivets. Tourists climbed the cobbled streets of Copp's Hill that winter, placing their feet where Paul Revere had placed his. The cold winds of January made people turn up their collars and turn their minds to chowder for lunch. But then January 15th, can you imagine if it had been summer, though? With heat. I mean, granted, the cold is, stuff to metal too, but still. Oh, goodness. All right. But then January 15th turned out to be a sunny, mild day with a touch of spring, and anyone looking down from Copp's Hill could have seen the fellows at the freight station smoking cigarettes in their shirt sleeves. What they could not, they did say unusual warmth, though. What they could not have seen was that the molasses tank looming over the freight yard was heating up. Shortly after 12:30, when the sun high and sparrows pecking for their lunch among the... Jane, what you doing? Darling. That's a carpet. What you doing? Being a terrier, that's what. Being a terror. Yeah, I said it. Indeed, don't go. Sorry. It's the other one that looks like you. We good? Oh, we're getting to the crest of the dramatic part of the story. You want to come up here? Oh goodness. All right. Let's see. Shortly after 12:30, with the sun high and sparrows pecking for their lunch. Okay. Oh wow, that was fast. Pecking for their lunch among the spilled oats in the gutters, the tank exploded. First, rivets shot out with the sound of gunfire, and World War I veterans ducked for cover. Seconds later, chunks of cast iron were flying through the air, and then the molasses itself plunged into the streets like a black tidal wave. Commercial Street was instantly bogged with a torrent of molasses. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with molasses, some recipes call for it. It's not super common. Typically, they call for maple syrup, something like that, but molasses is very thick, pretty gross, honestly. Not as gross as other things, but pretty gross. Doesn't smell great. Is very dark, at least the stuff we have now anyway. So we're not talking about maple syrup, which would still be gross. It would be closer to honey, like kind of halfway between honey and corn syrup, that kind of thing. So stinky. Versus, just like not pre-fermented stinky. And we're talking about has been fermenting in this metal thing. Anyway, it would be super gross. Okay. And sticky and thick. Okay. Commercial Street was instantly bogged with a torrent of molasses. Some people were swept off their feet, sucked under, and drowned. Others trying to flee got stuck and floundered helplessly in the muck, feeling their shoes and boots sucked right off their feet. The molasses busted open cellar doors and floated to basements and knocked entire buildings off their foundations. Buildings off their foundations. It's crazy. The north end seemed to be completely coated in molasses. 21 people were killed by the flood and over 150 injured. Horses that had become stuck up to their hocks could not be dragged out of the bog and had to be shot. Oh gosh. Salt water pumped from the harbor to wash away the molasses. No! I must have blocked this part out. So they think, okay, let's wash it away. But they use the salt water pumped from the harbor. But it reacted chemically with the goo and turned it into a brown froth. The streets were tacky for months as laborers struggled to clean the neighborhood, and sightseers who came to goggle at the scene of the tragedy tracked molasses around the rest of the city. Even at the end of the summer, the harbor still turned brown with every rain that washed the streets. By then, Prohibition had been passed, and the United States was dry. There was no more distilling to be done in the North End or in any other part of the country, but for years after the flood, on hot summer nights, Boston still smelled of molasses. And the note here is the rum business was a carryover from the old days of the Triangle trade, which dealt in molasses, rum, and slaves stolen from Africa.